How did this all start for you?
I think it started because I was born an old man, basically. My name is Nico Cox. You can call me Nico. I'm an antiquarian horologist, and I'm here today answering questions for Atlas Obscura. How do you describe your profession to someone you just met? An antiquarian horologist is, well, it's kind of a nebulous title really, because it refers to anybody who works on horological objects, but obviously antiquated items, so horological antiquities. All I have to say is, you've seen Hugo, right? And usually a lot of people have, and then I just say I'm like the kid, but I'm not an orphan and I don't live in a train station. My life is, reasonably magical, although, hopefully there's no tragedies. What does a typical day of work look like for an antiquarian horologist? My day can be quite varied. Some days I'm working on refeathering a tiny singing bird. Some days I'm recovering bellows and restoring the lungs of that bird. Other days, maybe I'm working on an antique clock. Maybe it needs a new wheel or a new gathering pallet or something of that nature. So my day is very varied depending on what type of object I'm working on. What is the oldest tool in your workshop and what does it do? That is a really good question. I actually do not know how old my oldest tool is. I have a lot of tools. I have thousands of tools. Everything from a cat whisker used to balance or poise balance wheels to a rose engine, which is a massive, it's not massive, but it's probably one of my larger machines that's used to create complex geometric patterns on metal. The rose engine is from the 1930s. I have older machines. I have a Francis pantograph engraver from the late 19th century. So I have a number of tools. I could never really say what the oldest one was. What do you think about when you're doing labor-intensive tiny work? Is it nothing? Is it Yeah, of course it's that. It really depends on what I'm doing. Maybe I'll be thinking about, back to my existential thoughts about existential risk. I could just be even thinking about how I'm not home soon enough to feed my cats. His name is Baxter Sebastian Sterling, also known as Mr. Mustache Pistachio. Sometimes you really have no room to think about anything other than exactly what it is that you're doing. It requires all of your focus and all of your attention. But yeah, the last thing you want to hear is your horologist say, F***. Do any of your projects, automata, contraptions smell weird? Ooh, yes. Sometimes you find a lot of what we sometimes call human inside old watch bands and things like that. Definitely has this musty smell that you might even feel is reminiscent of like a thrift store and vintage clothes. And there's also the smell of like old putrefying whales, because whale oil was used to lubricate mechanisms for a really long time. So sometimes you even find bottles of whale oil that is still good, still fresh. Listening to a music box play for release gives me goosebumps, but playing the song on Spotify does nothing for me. Why is that? I think it's really because you're having this tactile experience. There's something very special about the fact that you have these tiny steel teeth that are all cut to a very specific length and shape, and each one is tuned and resonates at a different note. And when it's plucked by a rotating cylinder with tiny pins that have been programmed to play this song for you on demand, when you push the button and you wind it up, there's something really special about that. It's almost ethereal. Do you wear a watch? If yes, what kind of watch and why this watch? If no, really? Well, I'll tell you this. I didn't wear anything but a Casio for many years because I couldn't afford a really good watch. I had a $10 thrift store watch that I just changed the battery in. Today I'm not wearing that watch though. I recently got a really cool Ernst Borel kaleidoscope watch. I had been wanting one with a date and automatic module. I don't have to wind this, which is pretty fancy. If you like mechanical watches, it's pretty fun. How have the years you've spent honing this particular skill set prepared you for survival in a post-apocalyptic world? I think that if we're in a post-apocalyptic AI-driven world, I'm hoping that the artificial intelligent gods of the future will take pity on me, knowing that I preserved their ancestors. How has your work changed your relationship to time? Well, it's made me painfully more aware of time, and also how time affects us, how it passes, how things change and degrade, and I spend so much of my day trying to reverse the effects of time on something that was made to catalog the passing of time. It's quite complicated.
Why is it your specialty?
I love automata. They were always kind of my favorite objects within this history, and I think because they carry so much of our personality, so much of our human spirit. These were really interesting things that were made to investigate a lot of philosophical questions. They were meant to test the limits of our creative and cognitive capacities as human beings. And I just think that the history and what it says about us is probably the most important message maybe from our past that we have. Yeah, okay, right. Yes, that's fine. I feel fine about this. Okay.